Welcome to the Redvee TV preview show, supported by A-Star Recruitment for the 2022 season, as we look ahead to this Saturday's 2022 Super League Grand Final between your mighty St Helens and the Leeds Rhinos. Boys, we got that extra week. We're here. There's not much to talk about, is there?
It's been a quiet week, David. It's been a very quiet week with nothing going on, only the big dance to look forward to.
Yeah, and obviously, as I think I mentioned to yourselves, I've been on holiday this week, up at a little place just not far from Dundee. Nice place, nice quiet. It's got lots of facilities, including a hot tub, which has been nice. I've been kind of in and out of there all week. It's been really nice and relaxing. And of course, as you know, when you're going to and from the hot tub, you need to wear flip-flops. And talking of flip-flopping, there's been perhaps been a little bit of flip-flopping this week from the match review panel. Nice link. Carry on, Dave.
Ooh, plot twist.
Are you two in this together, trying to come up with terrible puns?
No, this is all my own work. This is all my own work, I'm afraid.
Kev, if you feel we're twisting the conversation, feel free to shout.
Yes, I will do. I will do.
Indeed. Right. Let's get on to the main topic of conversation, the one that everybody in the world will be watching us for once. It's the Super League Grand Final. No, nobody wants to talk about that. What they want to talk about is this man. Mr. Knowles. Now, let's get this straight. And this, I'll say it from my point of view. Kev and Peter, you can join in afterwards. When we saw this at the game, I seen a replay on my phone, and I think I initially said to you straight away, Kev, that's a ban. Other people around us who'd seen it said, that's a ban. He'll be banned for that. We did raise it on the fan reaction video, but given that this is Redvee TV and we are extremely biased, and although we like to give our open and honest opinions, equally, we also want to see our side win trophies. So we've said we'll mention it, but Kev, you will say it's a matter for the disciplinary, which it was, and we fully agree. Kev, did you think he should have been banned initially from what you'd seen? Would you have had any complaints?
No complaints. Should have been banned. Kev Cunningham obviously dove in and ruined our plan by saying he should have been banned at the time, which we were all in agreement with. Let's not lie. I think we've been completely open about that. We did mention possible mitigating where it might not be as long of a ban because he didn't take him to the floor. But I think we were all expecting him to be banned, and then when the news came out, it was no surprise.
Peter?
Yeah, I completely agree. Watching the game on TV last week, when you seen the replays, I thought it's not quite a chicken wing, but I fully expected that it would be a ban, possibly one game, but obviously when initially it came out, it was 2 games because obviously he has previous. But if the ban had remained in place and he wasn't in the squad and he wasn't able to play at Old Trafford on Saturday, I don't think any of us would have had any complaints whatsoever. But obviously things took a bit of a twist.
It did indeed. Now, obviously, people will have seen our Redvee timeline during the week. When the ban was announced, we didn't complain. There was no issues with the ban that got announced. We didn't kick up a storm like we would normally. I was quite vociferous in my arguments regarding Jack Wellesby. I didn't even think it should have been a caution. I genuinely do not think that was foul play. I think it was a perfect tackle. And my argument was, and I don't know whether you'll agree, Kev, that just because you make contact doesn't automatically make it foul play.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, it's a contact sport. You are going to have, you can't turn around and say accidents are foul play. Yeah, you can be better at things, but if Atkins slipping, I don't see where Wellesby's going with that one. He's coming, hit him well, I've seen some Salford fans. I mean, one of my mates who I actually work with said it should have been a red. And you know, when you think you play the game, I'm not entirely sure that you'd have. He's a prop as well. I'm not entirely sure he'd have a career if we were going to have every single one. Yeah, there's a duty of care on the pitch, but that to me was just a big tackle, one that is unavoidable because the player slips, and not every tackle that ends up with contact to the head is malicious or foul play.
And equally, I think there was numerous incidents in that game as well. I think there was one early on where Benison got rattled in the first 2 minutes, which I thought was foul play. I didn't think the man rapped at all. I thought he went in with the shoulder, bounced off him. I think his own man ended up getting hurt off the back of it. I think they lost.
And the Ackers.
Yeah. And nothing was mentioned of that because do you know what? We could be here all day. You can't, on one side, say bring back the biff, and then every time somebody gets slightly touched, be crying for a ban. Peter, there's a plot twist, as you said. So
Yes.
Morgan Knowles gets banned. Saints appeal, as they are completely entitled to do. Listen, and we said, based on John Bateman being named in the England night squad to run down his ban, which is basically the RFL working against their own rules to get somebody free for the World Cup. Saints had absolutely nothing to lose by appealing the ban, did they? Because if they'd have had games on, Morgan Knowles would miss internationals. So, and listen, I completely disagree with club bans going into international rugby. It's bizarre. It's just a stupid situation. Club bans should stand, well, domestic bans should stand domestically. Saint appealed. This is where the plot twist comes in. Because they can't word their own bans properly. So, Kev, I'm going to hand over to you to give us a bit of an explanation.
Why are you handing over to me?
You're the man.
So, first of all, Saints have, as you say, have rightly followed the rules that are given to them by the RFL in being able to appeal. The RFL, when they threw out Saints' first appeal, have almost contradicted themselves by saying that Morgan Knowles hadn't taken the play or hadn't put the player at a risk of serious injury because he's not taken the arm beyond its full range of motion, for want of a better phrase there. So obviously, Mike Rush, who I believe is, or I'm going to get on the phone to him and see if he can reverse Burnley's relegation, maybe Brexit as well, but we won't get into that. I've seen this discrepancy. We've lodged the paperwork before 8 a.m., which means before 11 a.m. We lodged it at 8, which meant that we got heard the same day. And we've used a little bit more evidence and the ruling from the first appeal to win the appeal with Morgan Knowles. Now, for me, we're following the rules. We've done nothing wrong here. Any contrarian who thinks that we've done something wrong here just isn't taking full facts into consideration. We're not the first club to appeal twice this year as well. I mean, we all remember Harry Newman screaming in the face of the referee at the Totally Wicked. His frivolous, when he had a game added, they appealed against that. Reece Martin, again, done the same. To me, it shows the whole disciplinary process is weak. It's a weak thing. To allow your decision not to be as watertight as you can make it is poor. And that's not to say that you can't appeal it, that a club can't come in and appeal. But having a club come back and tie you in knots over the wording that you've given, it's a bit of a joke, really. And it just reminds me, was it Mr. Loophole? Now, I'm not comparing Saints to this, but the fellow who kept getting celebrities off driving bans. Anyone who he's up in arms about this, but says that they'd take like a fine and points for an offence like that if there was like an error, a clerical error to get them off it. To me, is well, they're either better than me or they're trying to make themselves feel better.
I'll just jump in, Kev. So basically, at the first appeal, the board who sat on, we're on Thursday now, so it was on Tuesday night, agreed that although he applied pressure and basically put him in a bit of a vulnerable position, it says, in their opinion, it was wrong. It was wrong that there was an unacceptable risk taken by the player, as the arm was never in an unnatural position. So at that first appeal, based on what they believed and what they stated had happened, he should have been found not guilty at that point.
Yeah.
Because the initial charge is not proven. And that is what we appealed on, because they got their decision wrong based on what they'd agreed had happened. End of. And do you know what? The only reason it's successful is not because it's Saints, it's because, well, actually it is because it's Saints, because Saints are clever enough to know legal jargon, legal speak, and other clubs clearly aren't. Done. And do you know what? It's not an unnatural position. Look, I can do it.
Yeah, I mean, if I can come in here myself, what you're saying is absolutely right. Although you seem to have done yourself a mischief there. You might be out the final on Saturday now. Saints were savvy enough to notice that what they had written in their own judgment was flawed, and I believe any club, if they had a bit of savvy, a bit someone at the top of the tree who had noticed that and would know how to come back with that and offer an appeal based on, look, we might say it's a clerical error, but they're reading their own judgment. They left themselves wide open, and I think any club in that position should have the savvy to appeal, and they would be successful. So people can say, oh, it's corruption in favour of Saints and all the rest of it. As you said yourself, David, Saints have been smart enough to notice what the panel have done, how they had got the wording completely wrong, and left it open for Saints to, drive a truck through the hole they had left in their own judgment. And, there's no corruption. All it proves is that once and for all that the whole rugby league disciplinary system needs completely overhauled. We've benefited from their incompetence, if you like, but we have been on the wrong end of their incompetence. Other clubs have benefited and got the dirty end of the stick, if I may clean that phrase up. But it clearly needs some more kind of legal knowledge on the panel to make sure that this doesn't happen again. If they hadn't worded it badly, Morgan Knowles would have been second appeal would have failed, and that would have been it. And we would have accepted that completely.
Sorry, Peter. I don't even think they've worded it badly. I don't think it's a clerical error. They've actually stated they didn't believe it posed an unacceptable risk. If they wanted to maintain that ban, they had to agree with the first decision, and they didn't. End of. So listen, should he be banned? In our opinion, I wouldn't have complained, and we didn't. But as Saints fans and as a club, are we right to try and get our best players on the pitch in any way possible?
Of course. I mean, any club should and would do the same, and we wouldn't blame them. We might not like it if we're playing a final and it was against Wigan, for example, and they had fought hard to get someone back in and available that we thought should be banned. We might be, the shoe might be on the other foot with us in that instance. But I'd like to think we would look at it with a level head and be fair and say, well, it wasn't worth a ban. Like the Reece Martin incident, he's missed 2 games, which his team has won, but a ban, really, it's ridiculous. But it's going to work in favour of some teams. It's going to work against us again, and then all these people have been, invading your timeline, my timeline, Redvee's timeline, Saints' Facebook page. Everything are going to be left way in their face because they realise it's not pro Saints at all. It's just we were smart enough to notice what they had done and to take full advantage of it, as we are 100% entitled to do.
Can you imagine if it had been the other way around and this was a Leeds player and we were playing them in the final? Can you imagine how much of a dog with a bone I would have been with, kicking off royally. And do you know what? This is why I spent last night basically on the wind-up, because I've got no issue with the way every fan's complaining about it, because we'd have been me especially, would have been on social media absolutely hammering the RFL. But I wouldn't have been calling Leeds for it. I'd be calling the incompetence of the match review panel to not ensure that the original decision stood.
I think to be fair, you're right there, because there's a lot of people who have completely embarrassed themselves. Because what they've done is, Peter's used the word, they've started arguing corruption. And in this, I include former top-level referees who have been on social media today and called it corrupt, fans of other teams calling it corrupt. They're doing it off the basis, and this is where the RFL again have let themselves down. When that came out last night, the minutes should have been produced. The reasoning should have been produced. It can all be out there. Then the idiots who haven't read it to those who have and get why it's happened. They might not agree with it, but there's a reason why it's happened. But you've got people at all level, contrarians, people who think they know better, just like having a different opinion because it might get them some clicks, some shares, some likes, whatever. They've embarrassed themselves, absolutely embarrassed themselves. Aim your vitriol at the people who can't get their own, and you said this in the past, Dave, their own decisions to stick, because they should be going and saying, here are 2 or 3 other examples that we have planned for 2 games. This is what we're basing it on. There you go. But it feels like you try and rush it through. We're telling you on a Monday, straight away, bang, there you go. We're rushing it through. It doesn't work. Listen, tongue a little bit in cheek here. Saints could well be trailblazers now in the fact that this all now, it gets completely wiped. I know Robert Hicks is doing a review into it. But the way that the disciplinary is now dealt with, Saints could well be trailblazers in getting that sorted. So all these fans who turn around and say, oh, I've had enough of rugby league now. Listen, we've had worse than this in the past, and people have still watched. And if you are that disillusioned with top-level rugby league, don't throw your love of the game away. Go and support your amateur club. They'll take your money. But stop throwing your toys out the pram and embarrassing yourselves.
And I think the way the disciplinary panel set up, you'd have a team of 3 on the Monday who make the initial decision, and then the other team of 3 are the panel for the appeals. So you could equally argue that the panel that sat on the appeal initially, if they'd have been the panel on the Monday, they could potentially not have banned Morgan Knowles to begin with, because they'd have said it didn't pose an unacceptable risk. And this is, or to me, shows the whole match review panel and the whole disciplinary is literally based on individual opinions, not facts. Yeah. And the fact that you allow people off the field to re-referee games on a Monday morning based on watching a video, I think doesn't work. I think the system needs to be more like football, and football don't always get it right. But the referees need to be more empowered to make decisions on the field about red cards and whether they become an instant ban based on what sort of offence it was. And then equally, for me, it shouldn't be up to match review panels to be picking out the most innocuous incidents at times. If something is that serious and needs to be dealt with, and it hasn't been dealt with on the field, it should be up to the individual clubs to cite players after the games for me.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that, actually, because obviously that happens in rugby union at club level, at international level. And I think, as you say, you shouldn't be re-refereeing the match on a Monday. I also think the match review panel, surely if they're looking at games, there should be an opportunity for the match referee. Let's just take St Salford, that when they're looking through that game, why not invite Chris Kendall to sit with you and sit with them and have a look at it as well, and let him, because he made the original decision on the day. If he feels that was wrong, then he can perhaps say, yeah, well, yeah, that maybe should have been a red card, or no, I given a yellow card there, I don't think it was, or whatever. Then at least you've got the referee that was there on the day involved in it, rather than, as you say, 3 people look at it on a Monday, 3 different people look at it on a Tuesday. You know, you've got a Craig David song about incompetence just writing itself there. But involve the referees who were there on the field and let them have a second look at it. It's like delayed VAR, but at least the guys who made the decision on the day can have a look at the call they made, and in a cold light of day say, well, yeah, that I maybe got that one wrong. That was worse than it looked at the time, or that wasn't quite as serious as I thought. But it would make more sense to me to have those guys involved, because they are the guys at the sharp end.
I think one of the things is the RFL are that scared of the legal action that could go ahead with regards to people getting head knocks and things like that. That's why they're doing the re-reffing of the games. But it means that you watch a game on a Friday, and then the first thing I do around lunchtime on a Monday is start looking for these. Why am I looking for these? Why is this becoming part of it? And listen, I know I do the social media for Redvee at times as well, but why am I looking for when people are banned? That shouldn't be what I'm doing. Who am I not going to see this week? You see it and you think, yeah, if we're going to start nitpicking, then you're taking away things that people haven't noticed in there. People haven't noticed these in the game. The Morgan Knowles one, yeah, completely different. It's been yellow carded. It's been seen by the referee. It's been dealt with, and he has been found not guilty eventually.
Can I say, Kev, you raise a really good point there. How many times, right, we're in a couple of WhatsApp groups, and there's a couple of them where maybe 150 Saints fans in the group. How many times this year have some of our players appeared on the disciplinary list and not maybe got a ban, but got a caution, or have done something, or even times where they've got a ban, and it's not something that was noticed? And there's a couple of instances that we've come across where I think James Roby got put on the list last week, and everybody on the group has turned around and gone, what was that? I don't know what it is. I don't know what he did. Mm-hmm. And if it's not that obvious. And then the other point I've got to make, there's no, on them disciplinary panels, there's no referee, is there? It's being decided by players, not referees. So the Morgan Knowles incident, for example, it didn't get seen by Chris Kendall on the field, did it? He had to take advice from the video ref, who is another qualified referee, who has watched that multiple times on video and still only advised Chris Kendall to give yellow for 10 minutes. If it is that bad, how come on the referee seeing 4 or 5 viewings didn't go, that's really dangerous, it's a red instantly? I don't get it.
There's 2 things there. I think there is a ref who sits on there, but he's not a Super League ref. And I don't know if he's a former ref, but there is someone who has officiated. The second thing is, I'm going to go back to our least favoured half-brother rugby union here. We've got a big screen in the grounds. Why can't Chris Kendall go and have a look at it? Why can't Chris Kendall talk to his video referee and say, what have you got for me here? Well, I'm looking at foul play. Okay, what foul play? He's twisting his arm. I think he's twisting his arm beyond where it should be going. I think that's serious foul play. It could cause an injury. I'm looking red. And do that. I'm looking yellow. Do that like they do in rugby union. We have fallen, since being innovators of bringing it in, we have fallen so far behind with it. And I think that goes from right at the top of the referee scale.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. It works in rugby union. They don't always get it right. They don't always get the decisions the way that, that some supporters would like them. But fans can then see that the referee's looking at the screen and they can see what he's looking at. And viewers at home can hear the discussion between, the TMO as a rugby union and the on-field referee and the touch judges as well. And they can really see how the process is worked out. And they can understand why they've come to a decision. They might not agree with it, but it's there. They can see it, they can hear it, and I think you're absolutely right. It needs to go to that level on field, because I think what you would get in that instance is more decisions being right more often and made by the referee, rather than having to get panels reviewing it and coming up with innocuous incidents that no one who was at the game can remember actually happened. And as you say, the one with Robes, it's like, what was that? What did he even do? No one had a clue. It shouldn't be like that. It should be stuff that's obvious. But yeah, you're 100% right about them using the big screen. And perhaps that means you need big screens and video refs at every Super League game, so there's no obvious advantage or disadvantage to teams who are on TV too much or not on TV as much as the top sides. So it's a completely level playing field.
The mad thing as well is how many times, and I'd love to, and this might be a question we need to ask some players at some point. How many times do some players appear on lists for the disciplinary and don't even know what they've done themselves and can't remember the incident because it's that innocuous? It must happen. It must do. And then the sad thing is this week, it's grand final week, and we've sat here now for 20 minutes talking about a disciplinary decision because it's just, you could argue that it's give the game publicity this week, but is it the right sort of publicity? Does it take away from the fact that Leeds have done a fantastic job to rescue the season from going from relegation candidates to grand finalists? So, without further ado, I think we probably have to move on. Before we do, sorry, Mike Rush's kinky VCR dungeon does it again.
Yeah, all them video cassettes come in handy. He was lofty above us on the West Stand on Saturday, wasn't he? And obviously he's run home, got the old video recorder out, put it on, and spent all Saturday and Sunday scouring other incidents and working. There's good on him.
Never mind Mike.
Legend.
Never mind Mike Rush MBE or Mike Rush CBE. It's Mike Rush VHS without any shadow of a doubt.
Listen, do you remember, probably going back 8 to 9 years, because Saints weren't winning, everything in the world was Rush's fault.
Yeah.
Whether it was the price of chocolate eclairs, not cake ones, but the price of the sweets at the bars, the queue for the toilets, anything in the world was Mike Rush's fault. And now people have seen the man for being what he is, which is an absolute legend. If the NFL had any sense, he'd be their new chief exec because he'd sort the game out. I'm sorry. That's as bad as John Lewis trying to sell all our players to the NRL. But yeah, the man's an absolute legend. He should be up for a Pride of St. Helens award this year for services to the town and doing what he does for the club. But anyway, right, grand final. We need to get onto it. Move on. We don't want to talk about the disciplinary anymore, do we? So what we'll do is we'll announce the squad and we'll use Morgan Knowles.
Our media team have pulled the good in there, haven't they?
I'd have used Rush's face, to be honest.
Yeah, true.
Right, Kev, talk us through the squad.
So, Will Hopewati's back in, Josh Sim is back in, and Dan Norman's back in. Sam Royal and Taylor Pemberton miss out. We only named 20 last week, which is why there's 3 in and 2 out. So the I suppose the big discussion is who plays fullback. Peter.
I knew you'd come to me first. Well, for me, it's a very, very simple decision. If Will Hopewati is fit, you start him at fullback. You push John Bennison to left wing. He's played there a number of times, not looked out of place. Move Percy in one to centre. I think that would be a brilliant partnership down the left side there. And you've got the option of putting Sione Matautia in the back row, or perhaps having him coming off the bench, bringing some impact. What that also gives you, perhaps thinking not negatively, but worst case scenario, if anything happens with Will Hopewati, then you can revert to the team from last week. Move Benno back to full back, without a centre per se in the wing, because if you drop John Benison, you don't have that option if anything happens with Hopper, and that means you have obviously Wellsby to full back, Robes into 7, and would rather not do that, as I think we've discussed on here before. So for me, that would be the team, because Benison doesn't deserve to be dropped, is on the other point. But I think looking at worst case scenario with Hopoate, that option gives us a chance to put last week's starting 13 back there. I think it probably means in that case James Bell unfortunately misses out for me, which is a tough call because he's been playing well recently. But it just shows the strength and depth of the team that we've got 3-4 injuries at the moment, top players. But we're getting to the stage where we're having to leave guys out who are playing well in the grand final. But for me, that would be my starting team for Saturday.
Dave, to counter that then, do you think that Christian Woolf will go that way, or do you think after playing the team that he played on Saturday with Percy and Sione Matautia as that left edge, he will stick with that?
I don't think he'll change round many positions to because straight away you're moving different chess pieces about. Sadly, disappointingly for John Benison, I think he'll miss out. I think I spoke last time Will Hopoate played. I can't remember what game it was, weeks ago, isn't it? But he played the first half and went off, and we looked at a completely different side in the second half. And I maintained on that fan reaction video, if Saints are to be successful and win a grand final, I thought it was going to be against Wigan at the time, Will Hopoate needed to be in that team because he's a match winner. Now, given that we don't need to make any other changes, I think Will Hopoate comes in, and I think the majority of the team, probably most of it, will now stay the same. I just think he'll go with experience and big game winners. And unfortunately, listen, John Benison's come in. He's been absolutely fantastic. He scored the winning try, won us the semi-final. He probably didn't expect to get half as many games as he's got this year. And whether he's in that 17 or not, he has been an integral part of us getting to a grand final and hopefully winning it.
Yeah, I tend to I've called him on a couple of groups that we're in, a creature of habit, Christian Woolf. He doesn't tend to change things. John Lewis is getting a bit of hammer here because he keeps saying Sirenen into 6 and Sirenen into prop and stuff like that towards the end of the season. And that was never going to happen because Christian Woolf doesn't do that. While I would, because we don't know the Will Hopoate full situation, I would probably err on the side of caution and go with something more like Peter's team. I tend to think you're right in the fact that we're not going to see that many changes. He doesn't like changing things. We've been saying for weeks we need to get these relationships, these partnerships working. We've had one game with it. Yeah, we're going to drop a key player in Will Hopoate if he's fit. But it's just what he does, isn't it?
So who do you think misses out, Kev?
Sim, Davis, Norman, and Benison.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've got. I've got Hopper at fullback. Your wing and centre partnership's the same as last week. And then, the team the same as last week, except Hopper for Benison. And then my bench would be Lussick, Bell, LMS, Wingfield.
Yeah, I think the only way, just before we asked Peter who he'd have missing out, the only way that it changes if we went with the team, or if I went with the team more like Peter's, obviously then you're looking at probably James Bell missing out, rather than, because you're going to keep Wingfield in as a reserve prop, you're going to keep LMS in as your reserve prop, and then it's Lussick on the bench, and then you're playing about with that last second rower spot, really. Who misses out for you, Peter?
Well, I think obviously Dan Norman would miss out. I think of the Sim, Ben Davis, and as I alluded to earlier, for me, again, erring on the side of caution, James Bell, although if he plays, he won't let us down. Just to re-emphasise my reasoning, I think Benison doesn't deserve to be dropped. I think that the Percival Benison left side would be a fantastic weapon. And I think if they can guarantee me that Will Hopolati is 100% fit to play for 80 minutes, then perhaps, leaving Benison out might be the option. But I just think we need Benison available just in case anything happens, because it's happened 2-3 times where Hopper's had to go off. There was the game against Hull KR a few weeks back. That's the one Dave was alluding to. When I was down for the Huddersfield game, when we beat them 25-0, he went off. The Salford game earlier in the season, he probably would have went off if we hadn't had other problems that night as well. So I think that has to be in the back of Christian Wolf's mind, that if that happens in the grand final and we have to move Robe 87, that totally changes the game plan. Totally. Whereas moving Benison to full back, Percy onto the wing, Sione to centre, doesn't totally change the game plan. I think that would still give us, would be able to still approach it in the same way, whereas for me there's a greater risk of having to totally change how we play, taking Robes out of 9. Not that Joey Lussig's wouldn't do a good job there, but you don't have the interchange option, and the halves then have a very, very different look. And I just would have a concern that it might have an adverse effect potentially on our chances of victory. I could be totally wrong, and if I am, and it turns out that we win comfortably playing the team you guys have suggested, heck, I'll take being wrong every day of the week. But that's my reasoning. I'm sure some people will agree with me, some will agree with you, but just with past,
Yeah, I don't think there's a right. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I actually agree with your team. That's what I would go with. But the team I've suggested is the one I think Wolf will go with. Maybe in the same boat. The Leeds squad then, Kev?
Big miss for them is Aidan Caesar, and Reece Martin's obviously back from his ban. Good goal kicker as well for them. So Tommy's going to have to be on his game if he gets the opportunity. Aidan Caesar missing out has brought up a good question that I'll put to you both. Because of the protocols with regards to head injury assessments, do you think there should be a bigger gap between the semi-final and the final? So there can be more build-up, more time to buy your tickets, but also so some players don't miss out because they're going through the head injury assessment protocols. Peter, go to you first.
I can totally take that point of view there. In terms of player welfare, it's probably a very good shout, because it's obviously a real shame for Caesar to miss out because, through no fault of his own, he's not been banned. He's not picked up a terrible leg injury or shoulder injury or anything like that. He's had a head knock, and he's probably absolutely fine. He's probably fine to play, but because of the rules in place and the protocols in place, he has to miss out. The kind of drawback for me, and the first thing that came to my mind was, if you take Saints, that would mean that we would have played one game in a month before the grand final. Leeds would have played at least, 2, for example. So they've had that extra hit out, and I think it might leave Egan in a little bit cold potentially. Now I know obviously maybe the player welfare should be more important, but as we mentioned earlier when we talked about the Morgan Hall situation, all we're interested in is Saints winning. I don't know. I can see the argument for that, but for me, I think the teams who finish top, then their advantage becomes less of an advantage because of too much time between meaningful action.
I think if we had 2 weeks between the semi and the final, we'd probably be onto about appeal number 6.
Leeds have also named Ash Handley in the squad. He's been suffering with a foot injury, but they're giving him every chance. They are missing quite a few, though. Jack Walker, David Fussatua, Harry Newman, Aidan Caesar, as I mentioned, Morgan Gannon, and Tom Holroyd. they've obviously got a player that we know very well, Dave, in James Bentley. He's just got to keep his head and stay on the field, hasn't
Yeah, and we've got LMS to try and wind him up.
he?
James Bentley's been tremendous in recent weeks. Listen, and I don't think we said anything different when he was in a Saints jersey. James Bentley's always been a tremendous player.
Yep.
James Bentley's issue has been losing his cool. He's managed to channel that in recent weeks, and he's showing the player that he is. And he's one of their most dangerous players, and we need to make sure we stop him. Leeds have been excellent in recent weeks. I know I've called them, what did I call them? A small club.
I'm glad you said all this.
And to be fair, I didn't call them a small club. I call the fan base a small club because it's amazing how they could only manage to bring 150 or whatever it was to the totally wicked stadium. And when we showed them up for it, they were quoting cost of living and everything else. But as soon as a final appears on the horizon, they'd all suddenly manage to empty the pockets. It's true, though. You can't argue. Listen, if cost of living's your reason for not being able to go, it doesn't matter whether you're in the final or not. Food comes first. So it was a poor excuse. Let's be honest. They didn't travel because at the time they were crap and they were going to get battered everywhere they went. And that's what the case was. They were getting battered everywhere they went, and the fair weather fans, and they all disappeared. Like they've all disappeared generally for the last 3 or 4 years. They may quote that they still get big attendances. Brilliant. How big's the city? They're getting the same size attendances roughly as Saints in a place 4 times the size. So that's rubbish. So they all stopped going because they were rubbish. Rowan Smith has turned up, and let's be honest, he's done a tremendous job. And the bandwagon is rolling again. And they're all going to turn up thinking that they're going to win it from 5th. Guess what? They could. Because it's a final, it's at Old Trafford, games can go either way. They can win it. They'll go on about us at the time. We won't fill our end up because we'll probably have some empty seats. Yeah, because we're a small little town. And we don't have as big a bandwagon. Our fans generally go home and away, travel with the club. We take decent numbers. We took them to Cass when we played the kids. We've travelled with the best away travel in Super League, and we just have less Klingons than they do. Sorry, what were we on about?
You know when you always say that I get on my soapbox and go off on a rant and it's like Jerry's final word? Was that your version of that?
Yeah. But anyway, can Leeds beat us? Yes, they can.
Yeah.
They've demonstrated if you can go away to Catalan and you can go away to Wigan and win, that team that they'll put out on Saturday have to be respected. It's a great final. It's been set up perfectly by Morgan Knowles. He's give attention to the game. Everybody will be tuning in. Saints have become the Millwall of rugby league. Everyone hates us. We don't care. People are saying, if Saints win it, it's a tainted win. No, it's not, because guess what? In 20 years' time, no one's going to remember that Morgan Knowles played in the final. The history books would show that Saints have won it 4 times in a row and created history. I see very little Leeds fans remembering Lee Smith getting found guilty of kicking Phil Bailey of Wigan in the head in the semi-final and was found guilty, but was punished for kicking a player in the head with a £400 fine, then played in the final, scored the winning try and walked away with the Harry Sunderland. But let's be honest, things even out eventually. So get your money on Morgan Knowles, winning try, Harry Sunderland winner, smiling at the cameras. Sorry, what were we on about?
Judging your history with betting, Dave, I wouldn't get people back in that. Sorry, Peter, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, what is there left to say after that? That's...
well, I'll tell you what there is. I'll tell you what there is left to say. There's one name in that squad that just makes me feel a little bit queasy, and it's just seeing the name Sinfield in there.
Yeah.
That's all I'd see. A true fella who can kick you to death in a final.
Oh, I know. But listen, I mean, see, in fairness, obviously Dave's been a bit tongue-in-cheek there as well, I think. But Leeds do, as they did allude to, they do have a lot of useful players in that team. That's not not a shoddy team at all. There's a lot of guys there. You mentioned Bentos, guys that are hitting form at the right time. That Rowan Smith's come in and not maybe turned them round, but he's made a few minor adjustments. And he's got guys playing that weren't playing. He's got guys like Bentley and Tetevano to screw the nut, to use a good Scottish expression. You look at Oledsky's a cracking big prop. You look at around that. Cruz Leeming at 9 is always a threat. You can't take your eye off him. If Handley plays, then they've got a real strike threat out there as well. We absolutely have to be on our game from minute 1 to minute 80. Leeds will fancy it. They're in great form. I mean, they've not just beaten Catalan once away, they've beaten them twice away. They've gone to Wigan and won no one would have given them a chance of doing that 3-4 weeks ago. They were 5 minutes away from not even being in the playoffs at home against Cass. They pulled it out the fire, so they're on a winning run. Their confidence will be sky high. A lot of their fans and probably some of their players will be reminded of their record against us in grand finals. I hate to bring that up, but it is what it is. But we've got a chance on Saturday to rewrite history for all those of us who were on the terraces, the stands at Old Trafford for those games, a chance to right the wrongs, to put the record straight. But we're going to have to play well to do that. We're not going to get it given to us.
Reece Martin back in the side as well after his ban. And people will seem to forget that 2 weeks ago when he was banned or whatever it was, that we were all over social media as Saints fans going, that's unfair. He shouldn't be banned. That's ridiculous. But you know what? We're not one-eyed most of the time. And one man who will be delighted to see Reece Martin back in the team is Zach Hardacre, because he won't want to be taking kicks against Saints in grand finals, because we all know what happens there, don't we, Kev?
Very good. Very good. Yes, we do indeed. That's a couple of names that were thrown out there. Cruz Leeming, he might play at 7 on Saturday, depending on how they go. But that just means that Brad Dwyer will have to do his turn into prime Cameron Smith, not the one in the lead squad, the Aussie one, against us like he usually does. As a Wigan lad, I'm sure he's always got a little bit of a fire in his belly against us.
Will he play, Kev?
Who? Dwyer?
Yeah.
Off the bench. Probably off the bench, I'd have thought. If Leeming plays from 7, then yeah, I'd have thought he'd come on off the bench. And that's kind of where he brings a bit of liveliness to him. And when he comes off the bench, that's when Joey Lussick comes on, he's got to match that energy, and he's got to take us forward in kind of
he has missed out in recent weeks, though, hasn't he? Because obviously Jared O'Connor's come through.
Yeah. But as I say, if Leeming has to drop into 7, depending on what they do there with the backs, whether they push Myler up into the halves, if Leeming drops into 7, O'Connor into 9, and Dwyer off the bench, I'd have thought.
I'll tell you, that's something else. I'm glad you mentioned Myler there. He's another one who's almost got a new lease of life. We probably all thought he was coming towards the latter end of his career, maybe drop down into the Championship. But I'll tell you what, he's really come onto a game. He's found his place, and for all the flashy stuff that Caesar does and Austin does, he's the kind of calm head in there. He scored a lot of tries recently as well. He's made some, timed his runs to get in the gaps, and really has, going back to prime Richie Myler of maybe a number of years ago. So that's another guy we certainly can't take our eye off on Saturday.
At least Morgan Knowles is taking the spotlight as being public enemy number 1. You know what? It's going to be pantomime booing all the way through, isn't it?
Oh yeah. And that'll just be when we arrive.
Right, predictions. Kev, for you first.
Saints by 10.
Damn it, that was mine. I should have went first. Well, I normally. Well,
yeah, you can just agree.
I can. I was going to say that, but I'll steal your other one. I'll say the Saints by 8. Reece Martin can kick an extra goal, so it's only 8. There you go.
I'm going to go Saints by 1.
Not a Morgan Knowles drop goal, surely.
Morgan Knowles drop goal. But it'd be Saints by 1 with a Morgan Knowles drop goal taken with the last kick of the first half.
Fair enough.
That's what I'll give the drop goal.
You left it till the last game of the season for the most random prediction you could pull out.
No, in reality, do you know what? And the reason I've gone the most random, silly prediction is because you know what? I don't care so long as we win.
Yeah, that's true. You've asked for a prediction. Listen, I wouldn't like to do one usually, but yeah, I'm just hoping we can get over the line, and our experience in the past couple of years will see us through.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that.
Right, I think that is us done and dusted, boys. Thank you for the discussion. You're not getting overtime for this one, I'm afraid.
Fair enough.
Right, we will catch you on Saturday for the instant fan reaction.
Yeah.
Win or lose. Because win or lose, Kev will be on the booze. But we don't hide in like success or defeat. We'll be filming regardless.
Wigan fan 13. What? Wigan fan 13.
Yeah, where's he gone?
He'll appear,
Lose a game and you delete your Twitter account.
We get beat on Saturday, he'll appear, and any credibility, which was probably not, will have completely disappeared. Because you can't go hiding when you lose. You've got to front up.
Like Kev Cunningham crying at Wembley.
Exactly.
And that's what gives you credibility. The fact that you stand up and you listen, I give stick all year round. Mostly this year to probably Leeds at times. And if they beat us on Saturday, fair play, you take your medicine.
Yeah.
Right. Done and dusted. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And we'll catch you, hopefully, with another trophy in our arms on Saturday.